This video is brought to you by the In Search of Tomorrow Kickstarter. Click the link in the description below to join the campaign today. It's been over 40 years since the story began long ago in a galaxy far, far away. Over 40 years since the first notes of the theme song blared out of speakers, since our first glimpse of rebels fleeing a gigantic Imperial space battleship. Thanks to 4 decades of movies, animated series, holiday specials, novels, comics, video games, coloring books, puzzles, and all the other stuff, everyone knows how the story goes after that, prior to that, and while that was going on. But this isn't about that story, and this isn't the story of what might have been. Hi, I'm Dan Larson, and this is the story of Star Wars before Star Wars. For over 40 years, Star Wars has been one of the most successful pop culture brands in the world. Most fans have never known a time when it didn't exist. Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Han Solo, Princess Leia, Chewbacca, C-3PO, R2-D2, these characters are household names that almost everyone has some familiarity with. Since the first film was released in May of 1977, Star Wars has connected with people of all ages from all over the world. It's a reinterpretation of classic narrative concepts and archetypes. It's a modern mythology about heroes and villains, made new through all the cutting-edge technology-infused spectacle a science fiction space adventure fantasy can deliver. No one would blame you for thinking that the finished product was the intent all along, that there was a grand plan to get to that specific point from the beginning, that every word, every scene, every moment happened that way because that's the only way those things could have happened. But that's not how any of this works. Creation doesn't happen in a vacuum. There's no such thing as an idea born fully formed without some degree of shaping before arriving at a finished product. The origin of Star Wars begins with young George Lucas, like so many kids, a fan of science fiction, raised on Flash Gordon movies and comics, hoping to one day tell the kinds of stories that he was enjoying, hoping to inspire that same sense of wonder and excitement. At age 27, after the release of his first feature film THX 1138 in 1971, his next 2 projects were lined up for United Artists. One would be American Graffiti, the second would be an epic space adventure, a brighter, more fantastic science fiction film than THX could have been, a movie called Flash Gordon. But George couldn't acquire the rights to Flash Gordon, which forced Lucas to try a different approach. Instead of telling a Flash Gordon story in name, he would tell a Flash Gordon story in spirit. He began developing the framework of a story that would touch on all the things that he wanted his not Flash Gordon story to be, and by early 1973 he had a working outline called Journal of the Whills Part 1. Journal of the Whills Part 1 was the story of a Jedi Bendu of Ophiuchi named Mace Windy. The story is told through the experience of Mace's Padawan learner, C.J. Thorpe, sometimes called C2 Thorpe. C2, short for Chewie 2 Thorpe of Kissel, is the son of Han Dardal Thorpe, chief pilot of the renowned galactic cruiser Tarnak. At age 16, Chewie heads off to Intersystems Academy in the hopes of becoming a Jedi Templar. It is there that he meets and becomes the student of Mace Windy, warlord to the chairman of the Alliance of Independent Systems. The drama kicks off when Mace begins to exhibit power that suggests he is stronger than the imperial leader of the Galactic Empire himself. Mace is cast out by his associates, expelled from the royal forces. Now a warrior without a country to serve, he continues his quest for righteousness, with Chewie still at his side. In Part 2, 4 years later within the world of the story, Mace and Chewie must travel to the planet Yoshiro to meet with someone, not sure who just yet, but it's connected to the Alliance chairman and... Look. It's an outline. It's the foundation on which to build something bigger. Remember, every journey has a first step, every saga has a beginning. You gotta start somewhere. Revisions are part of the process. Later in 1973, Lucas produced a more complete concept. The Star Wars story synopsis was presented to United Artists for consideration in May of 1973. 13 pages opens with starfighters attacking an armored space battle station over the planet Aqualay. Far in the distant future, the 33rd century, an intergalactic civil war rages. A young princess, guided by her protector, General Luke Skywalker, flees the pursuing Imperial forces. At Gordon Spaceport, a fight breaks out at a local watering hole, a cantina, if you will. Skywalker saves one of his new rebel friends with his laser sword. They make contact with the Resistance, they book passage on a freighter, and unfortunately are trapped because a spy was listening and now they have to shoot their way out. After hiding inside an asteroid, they attempt to continue their journey, but the structural integrity of the ship has been compromised and they must abandon it above the planet Yavin. Later, General Skywalker falls into a chasm after an encounter with a bunch of aliens. The princess and their 2 Imperial hostages are captured by aliens and sold to the Empire. Their only hope for rescue remains General Skywalker, who survived his fall and joined forces with some other aliens. He regroups with his rebel friends and they make an attempt to save the princess by attacking an Imperial outpost where they believe she is being held, but it's too late. She's already been moved to Alderaan. So they pack up their gear, dress up like Imperial Rangers, and head out to save her from a prison at the heart of the Empire. After rescuing the princess from the Imperial prison, they fight their way out and make it back to Ophiuchi, where the princess and the rest of the royal family reward them for their heroism. United Artists said no thanks. In May of 1973, they rated it an easy pass due to budget concerns driven by the amount of special effects that would be required. Universal, the company that had financed American Graffiti, got second crack and passed as well, hoping that he would have delivered something more like American Graffiti 2. By July, after Walt Disney also passed, Lucas and producer Gary Kurtz let 20th Century Fox have a look. Fox gave it a tentative, "We'll see." That was at least a go-ahead for a full script, but also the ability to turn down said script if they didn't like it. That version of the story takes place in a world that isn't so far removed from ours. It's the future, the 33rd century, and as Lucas has frequently stated, the whole thing was influenced by the ongoing war in Vietnam. He wanted to explore questions about how a democracy becomes a dictatorship, how empires are born. It was his awareness of making a political statement with his art, but not wanting to be so obvious about it, that motivated him to set it back in time and far away. May of 1974 would see the third version of the story, still called The Star Wars, or more accurately, The Adventures of Starkiller Episode 1: The Star Wars. In this version, a Jedi named Kane Starkiller lives on a moon orbiting the planet Utapau with his sons Deak and Annikin. Their world is disrupted when a Sith Knight arrives, killing Deak. Kane defeats the Sith, but he and Anakin set out to return to their homeworld of Aquilay, one of the last planets that have yet to succumb to the control of the Empire. Meanwhile, Kaz Dashit, the Galactic Emperor, is already making plans to invade Aquilay with a massive space battle station. Plans that are discovered by rebel spies and hastened back to Aquilay before it's too late. Kane and fellow Jedi, General Luke Skywalker, meet up and Kane reveals that most of his own body is cybernetic. He's more machine now than man. Anakin goes to the academy where Princess Leia has been to protect her. During the assault on the space fortress, C-3PO and R2-D2 depart via escape pods, landing in the Junland Wastes. And we find out what the Empire really wants on Aquilay: the cloning facilities. Meanwhile, C-3PO and R2-D2 run into Anakin and Leia. Everyone heads back to their own secret fortress to request help from the Ophiuchi system. Luke, Anakin, Leia, and her siblings Biggs and Windy suit up in disguise and head to Gordon Starport. Once there, a fight breaks out in a cantina. As they flee, they run into Han Solo and Kane Starkiller. They all attempt to book passage on a freighter out of Aquilay, but to do that, they will need a power source for the hibernation chambers that the royal children will be smuggled in. Kane Starkiller offers up his own cybernetic power source, his own life for that very purpose. Unfortunately, the transport was a setup, the captain of the ship was a Sith Knight named Valorum, and everyone gets put in Imperial jail. They break out, steal a ship, get into a space battle, evade the Imperials by heading into an asteroid field which allows them to escape but severely damages their ship. They all hop in escape pods and crash land on the planet Yavin, where they meet the Wookiees. Han, who speaks Wookiees, finds out that Leia is imprisoned at the Mavesi Imperial camp. Everyone attacks the base, but finds out that the princess is in another castle on Aquilay. Skywalker and the Wookiees head for the fortress. Valorum decides he won't kill Anakin and instead not only releases him, but joins forces with him to save the princess. Luke and the Wookiees destroy the space station as Valorum, Anakin, and the rest of the heroes escape the destruction. Back on Aquilay, Leia is crowned queen and gives everyone a medal except for Chewbacca, probably. Anakin is given the title Lord Protector of Aquilay, and it's a lot to cover in one movie. The closest this version ever got to production was decades later in 2013 when Dark Horse Comics adapted it as a comic called The Star Wars. 2 months later, in July of 1974, George polished up some of the rough edges. Adventures of the Starkiller as taken from the Journal of the Whills, Saga 1: The Star Wars, changed some names, rearranged some cosmetic points, and then George ditched that round as he moved on to version 5 in 1975.
Star Wars. It's the most popular movie in history. The one people enjoy over and over. And now it can be yours. Star Wars. Now it can be playing on an RCA video disc player on your TV tonight. Playing with RCA video discs' remarkable picture and stereo sound. Playing along with hundreds of other great movies and more. And best of all, if you buy a player now starting at just $2.99, RCA will give you Star Wars free. That's right, free. But hurry, offer ends soon.
The team behind In Search of Darkness, a comprehensive documentary about horror movies in the 80s, is about to take on science fiction. In Search of Tomorrow is going to be an epic documentary, a campaign that will be the ultimate resource for genre fans, delivering untold stories with a fresh perspective on the films that captured our hearts and imaginations. The cast already includes more than 40 interviews with legendary talents like Keith David, Kurtwood Smith, Alex Winter, Sam Jones, and there's more names to be announced over the coming year, like me. Unless I get cut. The crowdfunding campaign begins on Kickstarter, running from April 21st to May 17th. Click the link in the description below to join the campaign, the community, the future, in search of tomorrow. May of 1975 saw a third draft called The Adventures of Luke Starkiller, Episode 1, The Star Wars. The opening title crawl is verbose and heavy on exposition before getting on with the action. Two droids escape a rebel ship under fire from Imperial Star Destroyers above the planet Utapau after their ship, piloted by Captain Deak Starkiller, an Aquilian Ranger and Jedi, sends them on a mission to get help from his brother, Luke Starkiller. Deak stays on the ship to prepare for a confrontation with someone he senses through the Force to be a Sith Knight. Darth Vader boards the rebel ship and, using the Force, defeats Deak, draining him of his life force. While on Utapau, 3PO and R2 are captured by Jawas. They escape and find their way to the Lars homestead, but are also being trailed by the Empire. While there, they meet Big Starkiller, his twin Windy, and their surrogate parents, Jedi Owen Lars and his wife Beru. Leia Lars and Luke Starkiller also happen to be there, and when the droids give Luke a secret code, he informs them that he is known to the Jedi as the Skywalker. After some exposition from R2 explaining that Luke has to complete the delivery of the Kyber crystal, which Owen has been protecting, to Organa Major to assist the Starkiller, father to all 4 Starkiller brothers, in his defense of the world against the Bogan and its minions. Luke, turning away from his dream of being an archaeologist, sets out to deliver the crystal and rescue his brother Deak from the clutches of the Empire. He heads to Mos Eisley and gets in a Cantina showdown where he is assisted by Han Solo. Solo offers Luke passage to Organa Major for 1 million credits, which Solo needs to clear his debt with Oxus, the captain of a spaceship docked at the spaceport. Crafty as ever, Solo fakes a reactor malfunction, steals the ship along with shipmates Montross, Holdak, and Chewbacca. They hyperskip to Organa Major, which, they find out upon arrival, was destroyed by the Empire. They reset course for Alderaan, reprioritizing the mission to save Deak. Luke and Han steal some Imperial uniforms, pretend Chewbacca is their prisoner, and rescue Deak from his cell. They blast out of the floating city of Alderaan, using the Kyber crystal to keep Deak alive after the torture he endured during imprisonment. As they arrive on the secret rebel base on Yavin 4, they realize they were followed by a giant space battle station. They convene with General Dodonna, who brings them up to speed on the capabilities of the war machine they are now up against. Han says, "Later, dudes," while Luke, Bail Antilles, and a bunch of other rebels assault the Death Star, Luke keeping the powerful Kyber crystal in his ship during the fight. But Darth Vader can sense the Kyber crystal, so during the space battle above the Death Star, he goes right after Luke Starkiller. And just before he destroys Luke, Han, Montross, and Chewbacca arrive to save the day, and also killing Vader. It clears the way for Luke to fly his ship toward the exhaust port while Bail and 3PO fire the shots that destroy the Death Star and end the battle. And then the closing crawl teases the next episode that sees the expansion of the rebellion against the Empire, the return of the Starkiller as a powerful force against the Sith, and the quest to rescue the Lars family after they are kidnapped by those very same Sith Knights. The Adventures of Luke Starkiller, Episode 2, The Princess of Ondos, coming soon to a galaxy near you. I know it seems weird to hear these elements in this order now, knowing how it all works out in the end, but the important thing to keep in mind is this is the version that Fox approved to go to budget. Partially because Lucas had the foresight to hire Ralph McQuarrie to visualize several scenes from this version. This got him a starting budget of $5 million that was later increased to $8.5 million. A third version of this version of the story from August of 1975 was called The Star Wars from the Adventures of Luke Starkiller. This version trims down the character count by making Luke an only child, opens with Luke's father already dead, and replaces elements of the Luke Starkiller character with Obi-Wan Kenobi. In January of 1976, things seemed pretty locked in with the fourth and final version called The Adventures of Luke Starkiller as taken from the Journal of the Whills, Saga 1, The Star Wars. This fourth version is the version that Lucas would open up for collaboration with writers Gloria Katz and Willard Huyck. Together they would take all of that lore, all of those characters and moments, and distill them into a script that they could potentially begin shooting with. It's easy to look back now and believe that it was always meant to be, that there was a grand plan, the story, the characters, the timeless themes of good versus evil. It's easy to forget that the rejection, indifference, and lack of interest are just as much a part of creation as inspiration and clarity of vision. There has never been a story, movie, a comic, a TV show, a YouTube video fully formed from the moment of conception. All ideas are fluid, shifting, changing. But the ones that ultimately do become the most successful can be shaped by input because, at their core, they are driven by a singular, focused will and intangible power. A belief that can keep the process moving forward in the face of uncertainty and rejection, in the face of overwhelming disapproval, that overcomes the fear of failure, rooted in the deepest commitment, the most serious mind. The details of Star Wars may have changed over time, over revisions, but the force at the center of it all was George Lucas and his dream of heroic space adventure fantasy. And that was something that never changed. That was always the story of Star Wars. Thanks for watching. Please hit like, hit subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Thank you very much to those of you who already are. If you're in the position to help the channel grow, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/toygalaxy or become a channel member at youtube.com/toygalaxytv/join. Both Patreon and YouTube channel membership have the same exclusive content, so choose your own adventure. Please share this video and let us know in the comments down below if this was all new to you or if you were already aware of some of these previous elements. Did you know that Mace Windy was such an integral part from the beginning, only to go out the way he did in Episode 3, which is technically still unresolved? Although when it comes to Star Wars, it seems like no one is ever really dead, so who knows, maybe Season 3 of The Mandalorian, Baby Windu?